You know what, I do love a good bowl aquarium. Now this one's been set up for quite a long time now actually, but as you can see, it's got a little crazy. Right, so hold up, a quick note. Now I know some of you are gonna be like, you can't put fish in bowls. I personally don't agree, there's lots out there that don't agree. What you can't do is put massive goldfish in bowls. That is obviously not good. But with nano fish, it's very different. Now I've done it quite a few times now and watch the behavior of the fish, which you will see at the end of this video, and they behave brilliantly in bowls, provided there's enough decoration and everything for them, just like with any other tank. Now, before anyone gets upset, wait till you see the fish at the end of the video, and then you can decide if they're like unhappy in this bowl or not. So this has been home to like 6 Chili Rasboras, I think, and a load of shrimp as well. Now I made the mistake of putting pearlweed in here, which is not a good move in a small aquarium. Just grows so fast. So I want to do it again, but in a far more simple way that will just be self-sustaining. There's no filter, remember, the plants are the filter, but we don't need this many. You can't even see in it. So yeah, the first job is to take everything out, get the fish out. I've caught 2 of them already. I need to catch all of them, obviously. Get the plants out, start again, nice and fresh. So that's all the plants and hardscape out. Now we're just left with some dirty water. The fish and shrimp are still in there. I just wanted to stop a second to let you know there's no filter in this, and it's been set up for months and months and months, and it doesn't smell in the slightest. It smells absolutely pure. That's when you know you've got a good little system. So I'm gonna do the same system again. I know it works, and I've actually got Aquasol, no, I can pick them up now. There we go, there's Aquasol and sand inside that little bag there, and it's just worked so well. So I'm going to do that again, just without the pearlweed. So we're over at the sink wash area. Sink wash area? Is that even a thing? We're at the sink, and I'm going to give the bowl a quick rinse off. It's not very dirty, to be honest, because the light was quite low in the setup, which means that there was no algae on the glass at all. It literally just needs a wipe down. And as I say of most of my builds, I don't spend too long getting it absolutely clean, like perfect, because you'd be there all day with glass. So the bowl's clean, I'll get it dried up as well. There's the substrate we're going to be using, and then the Aquasol bags I've still got in some water in a bucket in the other room. Bring those all in a minute. You can do this all from fresh as well. Like this, when I set this up first time, it was all brand new stuff, so it works really, really well. Oh yeah, another thing, if you are going to reuse substrate, don't clean it, just leave it. That's how it came out. That's the water that was in the tank as well. Just leave it alone. It's actually far more beneficial to leave it because it's colonized with bacteria and that kind of thing. That'll all stay alive in there whilst we've got an open top and, you know, water, so we're all good. So we've got this nice little light from Amazon. It's not like mega bright, which is perfect because there'll be basically no algae, and we'll just use plants that don't require a lot of light. That way we don't get huge amounts of growth as well in such a small bowl. I think it's about 2.6 gallons, something like that. That's what I sort of worked it out as before. Yeah, here it is. Oh, here it is, look, all nice and clean. I mean, give or take 2.6 gallons because it's going to be substrate, isn't there? It won't be full right to the top as well. So the first thing I'm going to put in is the Aquasol bags. I've got them down here. Let me just open them up so you can see inside. And there we go, look. It's as simple as that. It's just Aquasol in the bag, and the roots can easily penetrate, you see. And you know that because there's roots all sticking out of all of these. Don't need to take that off, that'll be absolutely fine. I'll leave a link to the bags if you guys are interested in doing it. It's such a good method, it works every time. So the way I'm doing it here is I've got one big bag I've put at the back, and then there's a smaller bag there, look, that I'm going for in the foreground. It just works better in bowls when you've got more height in the back, and that's what we're doing there. And of course, next up we've got the substrate that we can put on top. We could put something else on top as well to make it completely different colour or, you know, brightness. We'll see how that goes. We've also got my lunch here. And today we're having chicken and chorizo pasta thingies. Tortelloni. Nah. And like I say, if we want to go over the top of this with a lighter sand or something just to tidy it up, then we can. I probably will do that because it's not a powerful light. If you go with just pure Aquasol on the bottom here, it absorbs the light and you don't get very much at all. But by putting a light sand on top, what we'll actually get is like a reflection of the light, and it gets like double. So good tip there, use a light sand if you want more light in your tank. I mean, it obviously makes sense when you say it like that. Yeah, so from a bit further back, look, you can see we've got some good depth at the back, coming shallow at the front. So I've picked up a couple of little bits of wood there. Remember, you do not want a lot of decoration in a small bowl. Majority of it we want as plants because that is the filtration. And if you put too much in, it very quickly looks like it's overdone and there's no space for swimming, and it makes it harder to maintain in that as well. I think that's why I didn't maintain this before, because I had quite a lot of wood. So I'm just gonna go for 2 little pieces, maybe 1 rock as well. So I've kind of put that rock in there in a way that's locking the wood down as well, because I'm pretty sure it'll float, which means we need a couple of little detail pieces. Look, one there maybe, and then I've got another one. Nice little bit, wants to go on the diagonal. Look at that, just like that. Looks cool, doesn't it? So we've got space at the back for our plants, space at the front, space around the sides, just tons of space, but we've still got a few little points of interest. Kind of struggling with this in the background. Hang on, let me change the focal length. I think that works better, doesn't it? We can see more. I could just put a board behind it, to be honest. Why don't I just do that? Okay, is that better, or is that now incredibly boring? I don't know. Well, at least we can actually sort of see what's going on in the tank a bit better now, but the distraction from behind it. So I think now a good idea is to add that different colour sand just to give us a bit more brightness in the foreground and also a little bit more depth for planting into. And the stuff I've got is just this, you know, cheap play sand, to be honest. It works really well. It's a nice colour and adds some brightness. I mean, look at that versus that. It's way better. Now, I'm not going too deep with it. This is just like a light dusting and actually matches the rocks quite well as well. I mean, I will add detail stones in front of this because just on its own it looks a bit, I don't know, completely artificial, but when you add a little bit of detail in as well, it really, really does come together. I've done it before. Yeah, it should look brilliant. Right, stones for detail. I've got like a complete mix here of stones I've collected over time just from other setups, and I need to give it a little bit of a wash, but they will go really nicely in there. I'll sprinkle them everywhere close to where all of the current hardscape is, and then it gets less as it gets to the edge of the bowl. I find that effect works really well. Yeah, so nice and simple. Take a handful and just let it fall. That one's a bit big, that's kind of off scale. Maybe I should put it somewhere else. Hey, why not? You know, it made its way in there. Let's keep it in there. A few little ones around it. But again, keeping the majority of all the stones close to the hardscape. And it's funny, isn't it? The second you do this, it starts looking way, way more realistic. You won't see it at the back, so there's no point wasting any around there. Awesome, I think that's enough. So yeah, we've got natural and realistic textures, maybe a few more in the foreground, but we'll see. When the water's put in the bowl though, it kind of lifts all of this. It won't look like we're seeing it now when the water's in it. I've done this before where I've had the sand up higher and then you put the water in and it kind of goes weird. I'm not sure why. One good thing though about the hardscape we've got here is there's a nice big rock and a little gap there, for instance, little gaps. We could attach a fern to it. Ferns don't grow fast. We'll go for a little Bulbitis and a little trident fern, I think. Both are quite sort of small scale and they look really good. There we go, look, two beautiful textures there. Both of these plants from Tropica. One's classed as sort of medium difficulty, one is easy, although I don't really struggle myself with Bulbitis, so I would put it as easy, but I guess it depends on your lighting levels, flow, that kind of thing. I've never really struggled, even in no flow setups like these. Low to medium I'd class it as. Give it a go anyway. I mean, it's the only way to find out really if it suits your water parameters or whatever. But yeah, everyone can get on board with a bit of trident fern, can't they? Now, because of sort of spacing in here, I'm gonna go for it in the background area as sort of like a stem plant that isn't a stem plant. So I'm gonna attach it to little pieces of rock. We'll just place it in that back area and then we can still see all of the hardscape in front of it. And to do that, all we have to do is take it out of its little basket there, remove the rock wool, like that, and we're ready to glue the rhizome down on a piece of rock. And yes, when I say glue, I really do mean glue. So we've got trusty old cyanoacrylate super glue gel, so simple. In fact, get a little bit of moisture on the stone, find that it helps. And then just a good blob of it somewhere in the middle there. Oh, I didn't seal the lid on this properly, it's not coming out too well. But it's okay, you don't need a huge amount. And then we take the base of the plant and just place it on. Hold it for around about 10 seconds or so. Well, actually, that'll be stuck already, but I keep holding it just to make absolutely sure it's secure. There we go, look at that. Perfect. And now look, it's nice and easy just to place it in the aquarium. Look at that. Looking cool. And the bulbitis on this side. These two plants just go so well together. Watch this, once you put that in, it just looks great, doesn't it? Straight away, got that sort of jungly feel to it. And like I say, I'm going to try and keep this one quite minimal, so I'm not going to have too many foreground plants either. It'll just look like a corner of some sort of river somewhere, like a little nook where these little fish are going to be. So I've got some nice moss here. This will go really well, not that much obviously, just little bits of it attached to some rocks in the foreground. Moss is also really good for absorbing nutrients in the water column, so that will help stabilise the bowl, stop algae and that kind of thing. And just like with the Java fern and bulbitis, it's just a case of a little bit of glue on the rock, and then we can take off a pinch of moss and just place it on top. Don't press too hard because the glue will start to show through. It might do a little bit there anyway, but it'll all grow on top of that in no time. And I'm trying to pick the sort of greenest bits I can because it'll just look better. Now there is the option obviously for trimming the edges of these, but if you want to go for an aged look, you can just leave it as it is, and it really does do that. I'm going completely random where I'm placing these as well, I'm not thinking about it too much. Always find, to be honest, that that's one of the best ways. Look, like flip that rock out the way, place it in that little gap, done. And I also found a few bits of Monte Carlo from the last setup that's still attached to a little rocklet, so that'll go in nicely as well. Look at that, it looks beautiful, doesn't it? I don't know even how it survived because there was no light down there. Okay, so now we are really looking good. I do want to place some stem plants in there though, not the pearlweed like we did before, because it just takes over. Not only does it grow fast upwards, it also just creeps, and that's why the whole bowl was just full of it, even though I only actually planted it in 2 little areas at the side. But this time I'm going to go for a type of limnophila, and here they are, look. They've got a couple of immense looking stems there. Such a nice plant, this one. So this one is the heterophila variant, so it's a little bit bigger than the Ceciliflora, but it's more fine as well. So I don't know if I'll use that full length, but it's going to go in either corner, and that really helps sort of bring it all together, I think. Okay, we're looking real sweet. It's now time to fill it up slowly, really, really slowly. And also in this instance, I want to dechlorinate the tap water as it's going in. Yeah, I'm just going to use some Aqua Essential from API. This just like removes all the chlorines, chloramines. There's loads of brands, obviously. This is the one I use. So you might find after you've filled the tank up with water, you're left with like a little bit of scum on the surface. Most of that's come from the sand, a little bit on the rocks. But if you take these are shrimp nets. I'll leave a link, guys, don't worry, I've got you covered. And you just scoop it out, and the foam stays in the net and the water goes through. I mean, that's how a net works, but yeah, sorted. Look at that, nice and quick as well. So it has now been a day since we first filled this up, and there's a slight murkiness to the water. Other than that though, it has got such a realistic sort of natural look, isn't it? The dark areas at the side, and then that sort of focal rock in the middle. You can literally imagine this would be somewhere, like a little snapshot of a little stream or something. I love it. I'm gonna do a quick water change though, just to clear that murkiness, because it's gonna annoy me otherwise. And there we go, look, instantly looking better. It's so natural looking, and there's still a little bit of sort of micro bubbles on everything. So I'll let that clear, and then I can put in the shrimp and the fish. Okay, we are all ready. So the tank looking crystal clear. Look, there's a few air bubbles on some of the plants, but to be honest, that looks pretty nice, doesn't it? Now I've added this backdrop thing of the fake brickwork as well, because I think it looks nice, and it'll make a great thumbnail. So before we add the fish and the shrimp though, I want to add in these snails here. So we've got 2 kinds. We've got a bladder snail, like that one, and then ram's horn snails like these. Now I think that snails are absolutely essential to any ecosystem. They just clean up waste, just chew it and mulch it down, turn it into something more that the plants can use. Plus they also eat any waste food that might be left from the fish or the shrimp. So we're gonna put those in first, and then we can add the rest. Right then, in you go, little snails. You can get to work straight away. And then next up, we have got in here, look, our Chili Rasboras, and we've got all of the shrimp. There's quite a few in there, And I'm going to put them all in. It'll all be a happy little family because they're all in together before with no problems. So we now need to address a few questions that I know you guys are going to have. First of all, how do we keep the fish and plants alive in a tank that's seemingly uncycled? Well, given the fact that there's a really low bioload on this tank, I mean shrimp and these tiny little fish are not going to produce very much waste at all. It means that we can change a little bit of water each day and that will basically set everything back to zero. This is what's known as a fish in cycle. I've done it so many times now. Now that the fish are in, we need to add some beneficial bacteria. The waste from the fish is food for that beneficial bacteria, and it just means it will keep multiplying and you'll get the right amount for the tank. Now, if you're going to do this method, you need to have a test kit and be willing to change quite a bit of water each day. Just to start with though, this is whilst it's all getting cycled and settling in. So this is day one. On day two, I'll do a 50% water change, and I'll keep doing that every single day for a week. All the time I'm testing the water and making sure there's no spikes. I mean, with what we've put in this tank, it'd be very unlikely to receive like a spike in nitrite or ammonia. Especially with those 50% water changes a day, you're basically diluting the water constantly. So that'll be the cycling taken care of. Now, what about maintenance? Well, I don't do anything. Apart from those water changes, there's nothing else needed. The light on this is not really bright, is it? Which means we're not going to be getting any algae. Normally you'll get algae from too much nutrients plus too much light. Well, with the water changes and the sort of low level of light coming in, we won't get algae at all. There might be the odd little bit, of course, but you can just remove that by hand if you're really worried about it. I'm not going to be, because we're going for a sort of real natural look here, and a natural river has algae. Heating then, how are we heating the tank? Well, I heat the room. It's far more efficient for me with all these tanks to heat the room than each individual tank. You might need to put in a little nano heater depending on the climate that you live in. And another thing that I usually forget to mention, how long is the light period? Well, I light all of my tanks for 12 hours. So I tend to go for a low level of light for a longer duration, and I've had really good success with that in low-tech tanks. It's not really the norm in the sort of high-tech community. They tend to go for 6 to 8 hours, like blasting with light, CO2, and then a longer sort of dark period. But for me, 12 on, 12 off. And the good thing is, if you're getting algae, you can adjust that, you can come down. Whereas if you start off with the lower amount, you can't go down even more because you'll barely have your tank on at all. But overall guys, I hope you like this one. It turned out great in my opinion. I love the sort of natural look to it all, the simplicity of it, and the fact that all of you can have a go at it as well.